Hello to Webs, it is I, Hewlett, David Hewlett, and yes, it's another Friday, and I want to talk about the future of film and TV. But I'm going to adjust this music before I murder everybody because it's driving me mad. Okay, let's go a little bit lower. I like the idea of a little bit of music in the background just to sort of even out some of the background noises of, the excitement of Friday soccer, Friday catching up on Invincible episodes. So this is the future of film and TV. Yes. And I am not the future of film and TV. I just want to talk to people about it because I have a few things that are sort of nagging in my brain about what's going on in my fabulous industry right now. And also, I really spend a lot of my time, always have, sort of looking forward, looking at magazines about making film and reading articles and watching videos and behind the scenes and a lot of that stuff. And while I don't really love all the acting stuff. I don't really care what actors have to say about their roles and things. I am fascinated by what the people who work with all the technology and the filmmaking side of this stuff, because I think one of the reasons why I was so sucked into this was how much I loved all the technology that surrounded this. So how are we doing? Hope you don't change too much, as it was actually working properly for a change. Yes, very true. Very true. Don't mess with it too much. How are we doing for sound and stuff? Everyone hearing everything okay? I'll just double check on that before I get back into this. Also gives me a chance to sip my coffee and wait for people to come in. Jarl von Barf. Oh, lovely. I got a thumbs up from Papa Smee. Sounds fine from Cal. Thank you, Cal. Hello, Cal. Everyone, welcome, Cal, who will be the hammer. Well, at least the hammer on Twitch. That's absolutely refuses to be a part of any of the other streaming platforms because apparently Twitch is the way to go. Good. All sounds good. Fantastic. So what I've got that I'm sharing here is just my browser window. I wanted to show you a couple of clips, things that have struck me over the week as interesting. I don't know how many of you have been watching that fabulous show called Severance. Beautiful, just if certainly as someone who loves film and television and science fiction and horror and all that kind of stuff as much as I do. There's not so much horror in it, more of a psychological horror aspect to it. But it's just a fantastically written and produced and acted, and basically everything from the set design to the props to the writing and performances. It's fantastic. But what really got my little geek engine running here was when I watched some of the behind the scenes stuff that was going on, like how they shot, for example, that first sequence. And I'm going to just show you a little bit of it here. I think it's muted so that I won't get in trouble. But basically, there's this opening shot, and I was like, wow, I've seen this a few times, like on a couple of videos. And this is just a walkthrough that Ben Stiller and Adam Scott did about the shot. Let me just get you back to the shot again. But it's just this stuff, like these wonderful, rapid, very precise moves that these shots involve. And I was just I was just so taken with the fact that you couldn't do this before. Like, this would not have been possible without the robotic technology that is available. I've had a little bit of experience with this, back even in the days in the dinosaur days of Stargate. We did a bunch of split screen stuff and also what they call the invisible split screens and a lot of compositing and that kind of stuff, where they basically take either the background out or the foreground out or whatever basically they piece together shots. And one of the things that we would come up against over and over again was, if you wanted to move the camera while you're doing any kind of effect shot, it became more expensive. It took longer to do. It was harder to do. And so, it got done as little as possible. And you can just see the progression actually through the show, starting with SG1 and moving into Universe. The technology allowed them to do a lot more than they could have done at the very beginning. But But back when I was doing it, what things would happen is you would have this computer controlled camera, which was basically a robot. It was almost like a 3D printer with a camera attached to it. And what it could do is you would walk it through the shot that you want to do. And once you had decided that that was the take you like, you would do this, you'd obviously rehearse and stuff and figure out where the camera's going to be and everything. And then you would record not just the image and the footage of what's happening in the scene. You would also effectively record the position of the camera and how it moves through the scene. And in doing that, you create a way of seamlessly attaching two shots together. So used to be, I mean, you've seen it a million times where, and I might even have some, one of my videos, I think, talks about this, the rules. This is another one I'll talk about in a second, but this is rules of attraction. So this is a split screen. This is where they're using it sort of more of an artistic way. But what I wanted to show you was the invisible split screen. So that's this kind of thing here, where you have, for example, in this shot that David Fincher is a big fan of using this split screen idea, where basically you've done a number of takes, and because the camera's in the same place, the camera's just a static camera getting a shot of all those people, you can actually grab the sections you want and cut and paste really as long as the camera isn't moving, you can do that. Now, if you've actually got a moving camera, if you've got a computer controlled camera that can recreate the shot exactly the same every time, then you can do the same thing, but with a moving shot, where you can basically, for in my situation, it was because I was playing Rod and Rodney. I was playing two characters. So they would have us interact by shooting the shot once with me in one wardrobe and once again with the other one. And you would do that. You were only able to do that with a moving camera if it was robotically controlled. I think I have a shot. Here you go. So it's this kind of thing here. So you've got, here you go. So the camera's moving, but we're both there. So as long as I don't reach in and my body is not in a position where, one of my favorite shots, I got to say, good old Jason. It's as long as I'm not interacting with myself, then it's basically as simple as shooting it twice and then cutting and pasting it together, and you've got the effect of two people in a scene. It's time consuming, yes, but it's a hell of a lot easier than having to, what they would call rotoscope, like take me out of one of the shots or put me into a shot and try to make it work with the lighting and everything. So the advantage of a motion control camera is it's extraordinary what you can pull off with these things. But they were huge, they were expensive, and obviously it's a time incredibly time consuming, because you've got to keep shooting these scenes multiple times. When you get into other shows where you've got multiple characters, I mean, I think like Orphan Black and stuff, I just can only imagine the number of times you have to shoot have that camera go through exactly the same motions in order for it to pay off. So good evening to you, Rob, as well, from the UK. Fantastic. By the way, when you did those shots, did you use a crew member in place of your alternate to play off? Well, actually, what's funny about that, Ancriitis, is there was a stand-in that did it, and and this poor guy who they hired to do it wasn't an actor, really. He was just literally was sort of told that he was going to be there in the scenes just to sort of be as a placeholder type thing. But then, of course, they handed him all these lines, and he had to run through them. And of course, there aren't a lot of people who speak as quickly as I do. So I was getting very impatient because things were taking longer than they should and stuff. But yeah, so I was working with another actor for that. And also you need someone there because you want to see where you would fit in the scene. Like you want to see where you're interacting, where you're not interacting, and stuff like that. So generic human person was the role. Yeah, I think that's what they were told. And this poor guy showed up, and I'm like, okay, let's run lines. And he's like, what? You know what I mean? Like, I didn't learn the lines. What are you talking about? Brian, how the hell are you, Brian? At some point, Brian, I want to do one of these about 3D printing, because I think that's another sort of revolution in the way that films and television are made now, is the idea that you can 3D print these props and you can build these wonderful things that you just would have just been prohibitively expensive or time consuming in the past. But which is, I suppose that's sort of a robot. I suppose in a way that's robotics, isn't it? I mean, that's a manufacturing process that's basically a robot. Speaking of which, I finally got my Prusa in out from the cold, and I'm able to start doing some printing again. So, um, yeah, Brian Vines is 100% adequate. Fantastic. So going back to the robotics, we've got these motion control cameras. Well, they've become so advanced now. They've become so precise, and the cost is coming down at such an extraordinary amount that they can now get the camera on a little arm instead of the massive, jibs and all sorts of stuff that they were needing, and they can create these shots that would just be absolutely impossible without without a robotic camera. And I think at some point they actually get into showing where the robot is. Let me see if I can find it in here. Is there a shot? Maybe there isn't. Maybe they don't actually show the robot, but it's possible that we don't get into that. Let me see if I can find it. Let's see if I can find it here. So basically, they've got a camera on this robot in an elevator. They've had to replace some of the stuff, obviously, with CG in order to get the walls in and stuff. But there you go. So they're actually showing us where. So none of that's real. That's all being added afterwards. And because, of course, there's this machinery that's involved where you've got the camera on an arm. I need something to... So here's your camera lens. You've got a camera on an arm that is spinning around like this. You would obviously see where the base of this thing was. The advantage of it is it can move incredibly fast. I can't remember exactly the exact speed, so I'll have to do some show notes or something on it. But incredibly fast. You don't want to get in its way because it will obviously take your head off. But it allows a very, very precise look. The way it's starting and stopping incredibly quickly. As a human, you just wouldn't be able to. You'd be able to do a simulation of that, but be nowhere near as accurate as that. So that's what got my imagination going. I started going like, wait a second, robotics in film. What else is available now that we're, that we've got so much more advanced with this stuff. So there you go. There's a dog, very excited about all this. I'm going to go let her out. Hang on one second. And I'm back. The dog, very excited about everything. So let me find the other thing I was talking about. There is, now check this out. So this is a much more recent addition to the robotic world. This, I believe it's a Boston Dynamics robot, and you're going to see, so Boston Dynamics, you may know, the dog the creepy dog that can wander around construction sites scaring away criminals and stuff. They've now putting their basically robotic human to work as a cameraman or camera person on set. I think this is more marketing than sense at this point. I mean, I think that it's wonderful that they can do these things. I'm just not sure that you need a bipedal system for this. It makes more sense to me for these things to have wheels. There may be certain things you could do that would be interesting, like potentially being able to run and track an actor as you go. Could be useful because cameras get heavy, and if you're doing multiple takes of this thing where you've got a lot of running to do, there's definitely a place for something like this. I'm just not sure that it's this kind of thing. I mean, this just seems more like they're showing off the robot than they are showing off what they would do with the filming. There's a lot of, there's robotics even in the camera system that they're using. There's actually, there's a gimbal that's keeping it steady. There's, and now this makes more sense to me. The idea of using these Kira arms, that makes sense. But staggering around with it as a robotic cameraman doesn't seem to be more than a marketing ploy at this point, which again, I don't mind. I think it's fascinating. It gets me thinking about where you could use this stuff and again, what's the future of this stuff? How's it going to be used? I'd sort of be curious to know what other people think about it. But gonna lurk, dinner's getting cold. Don't let your dinner get cold. That's terrible, especially if the camera needs to be steady. Yeah, the steady issue, I think, Ancreatus is an issue because the stabilization on cameras now is so good. Like even consumer cameras have built-in stabilization that can take quite considerable bumps out of it. I mean, look at some of the GoPro stuff that's available. They can smooth out footage of people hurtling down ski hills or bike trails or whatever it is. So there's definitely technology for that kind of stuff, which again is a robotic feature. It used to be, if you shook the camera too much, the shot was ruined. Now they can track those shots and reduce a lot of the movement, especially if you film in a larger format than you need. So if you shoot it at 8K and you only need 2K of an image, you've got the camera could be doing this, and you can basically figure out a way to stop it from bouncing around. So I think the thing that I see coming out of this is not these two-legged robots staggering around with a camera rig, but the idea of these digital crew members, these robotic crew that are going to become sort of mainstay on shots. I mean, if you've got a shot you like and you can program it into a robot, and obviously there's a human figuring out what that shot is and creating what it wants out of it. At some point you're basically walking the robot through what you want the shot to be, and then it just continues to repeat that, or it takes out the bumps and the little adjustments that you need to make, or just it repeats it exactly the same. Depends on what you want from it. But the idea that these systems are going to be more and more familiar on film and TV sets. I would say almost especially on television, because once you've got studios and stuff set up, why not just have a system of tracks and stuff that would allow you to film this stuff? And I know that a lot of the new studios have become almost entirely automated that way, and for good and bad. But I think that's something we have to be aware of going into the future of film here, is that robots are going to take away the repetitive jobs. They're going to take away the jobs that are uncomfortable. Like if you're lifting, if your day spent on set is lifting heavy things, there's a very good chance that is going to be helped or removed by robots, basically. Subtle thing that people don't generally think of, this whole transport departments that drive people to and from set. Now, what happens when we have autonomous vehicles that are doing that instead? Again, a perfect place for autonomous vehicles would be a film set or on a film studio, where you have very specific routes for getting around, and it can make sure you're not driving into shots when you shouldn't be, or whatever. I mean, there's a whole transportation side of that. There's also the idea of these robotic or autonomous 18-wheelers and such that can handle the driving around at all sorts of hours of the day and night. One of the issues you get into with transport on a lot of these shows is that they're there all day, right? I mean, they're there all day, and then if it's a long night, then they're going to be tired, and they're going to need to deal with that as well, right? So there's been fairly recently, there's been some thanks, Gimpy G. Recently there's been sort of a focus on the idea that we've got to be aware of how long people are working, because the people will drive off of the road because they're tired. And that even happened on Stargate at times, where Rachel's up really early, having to have makeup and hair and stuff done or whatever, and so she's in earlier, and she literally fell asleep at the wheel on the way home once in a traffic jam. So we have to start looking out for the human side of this stuff, and robotics can help us with that, certainly in the way of like an autonomous vehicle or something like that. Even just driving assist in that situation would have helped. But I think, again, these are things that we have to think about, because the studios and the networks and the streamers, they are all going to be looking for ways of getting their budgets down, right? How can they spend as much as they can on their fabulous stories or series or whatever they're making, and then reduce the cost? And one of the biggest costs on a film set is the people. It takes a lot of people to make a film, and if you can reduce that by having a robotic camera person or autonomous vehicles or drones, and the drones are a perfect example as well, where you know up until what 10, 15 years ago, if you wanted an aerial shot, you had a helicopter, and helicopters are huge and expensive and dangerous, and they were only in big movies. In fact, one of the things we got told is, like, if you want to sell them, hey kid, you want to sell a movie in Hollywood, you got to have a helicopter in it, like that showed you that you had a budget of some sort. So drones just revolutionized that. Like, every freaking horror film I see now has like drone shots of the woods before everyone gets killed in them. It's almost used ad nauseum at this point. But the idea is that it's a technology that are allowing creators to make films in a way that they just would never have been able to do without these massive budgets before. Aerial shots now are just, they're it's laughable how quick and easy they can be to do. But even that is changing. The approach to that has changed, because when I first looked into drones, I went and I did a course on drone photography, because I was like, wow, these things are amazing. Why aren't we just filming everything on drones? This is gonna be awesome. And I watched this presentation, and I suddenly realized that it was already antiquated. That the idea of talking about how you would get trained to control these cameras and the jibs and the helicopters themselves, and how many people and pulling focus and all this stuff, I was something like, wait a second, like, the film industry is talking about doing this like a helicopter. The reality is it's more like a consumer drone. Like, for the first few years of drones, all people did was they were a bit like kites. People would just fly them into power lines or trees. They were dropping out of the sky everywhere. Because humans suck at controlling these things. Now that there is an autonomous element to these things, you can program in a few waypoints as to where you want the camera to go. You can adjust where the camera's facing. You can you basically map out your entire shot on an iPad, and then the drone goes off and films it for you. So again, what these skills, what you would think of as important skills on a film set, they're changing so quickly. The technology is changing so quickly that I think you sort of got to think about anything you plan on going into in the film industry. You have to start going like, okay, how is this going to be affected by AI or robotics or technology in the future? Because it will be. I think it's sort of an inevitable way that the industry is working, as it sort of tries to save time and money, and yet create these large cinematic things. So I wanted to go back to a couple of fun things. I want to show you one of my favorite early uses of this sort of split screen and the invisible split screen. This is a film from Roger Avary called Rules of Attraction, and this just, again, this is technology. This is technology at work, where you've got two shots, lovely stitched together, watching a conversation, and then again, because of some brilliant writing, directing, thinking this through, and of course performances that allow you to do this, you actually get to do things like this, which will happen in a second. You'll see where the scene goes from two people talking to the side shot of these two characters talking, and it's such a beautiful way of doing it. And also, think about it. You can take a pick of which of these angles worked for the scene. They haven't cut, so they're basically saying, okay, you got the close up of her, close up of him, and we need a full run of this. As an actor, this is fantastic. As an actor, it's just wonderful to be able to go like, oh great, you could run through the entire scene like a play, and then they sort of start tying them together. And this, like, look at that, and then all of a sudden we are back in a traditional wide shot. And I gotta say, I mean, Roger's a madman, but I just love how he plays with filmmaking, and as an actor as well. This just allows you to do such amazing things. Um, and again, that is my guess is probably, if not a robotic matching of the camera, it was certainly a way of if it wasn't a matched if it wasn't a matched with a robot, it was certainly some kind of a system to make sure the camera ended up in exactly the right position to allow for that two shot like that. You know, Adolescence, fantastic. Thank you so much. Digital Dependence. That's a great, or Lock Watcher. Another great example of the technology allowing a filmmaker and a writer and performers, for that matter, to do something different, to elevate what would what would, I guess, would have been a rather sort of traditional British thriller type thing. If you haven't watched it, you should definitely watch it. I'm not going to do any spoilers on this, and I'd rather people didn't in the chat either if they can. But again, the concept there was that they were doing one shot for each episode of the show, and the show's like an hour long. I don't know if they did any stitching. I don't think they did. I think the whole idea was that they did one shot and that they had to pick one that worked. And there was a lot of movement there was a lot of cameras being passed off to other people as the scenes continued. And then there's one sort of rather famous one where the camera is literally handed off at some point to a drone that then takes it up and then brings it back down again to film a whole other scene. So just really, really smart. And again, not possible without this technology. And I think the key here for the future is that we can fight this stuff all we want. I just think we'll lose. I think the best approach to it is to figure out how these tools can improve the creative process for you, that can improve the way you want to make films and the, potentially the efficiency in how you do it. The handing off the drone thing was wonderful. I mean, I have issues with one shots. I don't like these long one shots for the most part, because I feel that people get distracted by watching the one shot instead of what's happening on camera. But I thought that Adolescence did a brilliant job of basically writing it into the script. Right, it just kept you. It was wonderful going like, hey, look over here, while they did something over here, just to make it work. And I just thought it was fantastic. Apparently, I'm awesome. This is such a refreshing take. Oh, good. This is me pontificating about this stuff, and I'm just giving myself free range to just geek out on this stuff, because I feel like we're moving into this weird zone right now where there are people who are all about the tools and the tech, and there's other people who are all about we've got to watch out for these tools and tech. And I really feel like we need to embrace these as tools, not as problems. I mean, the fact that we are able to film shots as long as we can now is also because of the technology. I mean, there was a while back there when we were shooting on film, which you'd have to create massive rolls of film and hope for the best on a long shot. Like, I mean, try to do Touch of Evil or something like that. And but right now there's like a renaissance in these wonderful long shots. They've just done it on the studio as well. I think quite effectively. It's allowing people to it's a flex, but I think this is what film's about, right? The film is about surprising people, trying new things, experimenting. And I just think that the robotic side of this is something that I think a lot of people are either unaware of, or feel that it's just going to replace humans. I will argue it is going to replace humans. Absolutely. I think the back-breaking job of carrying a camera around trying to film stuff has got to be done by a mechanical system like a robot of some sort, especially if you want to repeat it, especially if you want to shoot in tough situations or dirty or dangerous or repetitive stuff. Humans aren't good at that. Robots are exceptional at it. So let's let them do it, and then we can use our big our big monkey brains to come up with other fun creative things. The other thing that I have not seen, which I am really excited about, is what about lighting? Like, what about lighting and the flags that are used to create those wonderful shadows or these digital backgrounds? I mean, the reality is, I can't imagine a more horrible job than it being -40 outside, trying to lift giant, lighting structures up on scaffolding so that they can shine light through a church. And, I just, the number of times I've been sitting there with my coffee inside waiting for them to light something and thinking like, oh my God, those poor people. It's also dangerous. I mean, what happens if there's a storm? What if there's, like a lightning strike while you're putting up a freaking lighting rig of some sort? There's just so many things there that can go wrong. Again, why not have a robot do that? I mean, think about it this way: my dream of the future for this stuff, and I'm sure someone's thought of it as well, but certainly in my mind, I love working this stuff out. And one of the things I see for that is I see a pre-visualization on a computer or a laptop or or an iPad or whatever, where you go, okay, this is the shot I want. I want this kind of light. So you can look up what time of day it is. I mean, if you look at Unreal Engine right now, Unreal Engine has the ability for you to say, this is where I am on the planet, this is the time of day, and this is the way the camera's looking, and it will create the lighting effect for that. Oh, let's try it with an overcast day. Like, you can literally pinpoint it to where you're going to be filming this stuff. Imagine doing the same thing with lighting, where you go, okay, we're going to set up a lighting system, and let's say we're on location. The trucks open up, out trundle these giant Roombas with a big lighting stand on it, and they trundle off to where they're supposed to go, as based on the preliminary pre-visualization of what the shot's going to be, and up go the lights, and then they lock themselves in, and they screw themselves into the ground or whatever they need to do, and then they are safe, they're supported, and they can now be maneuvered from the iPad from there. They can be tweaked by the humans from there. Obviously, you're going to need humans to maintain them. You're going to need humans to make sure that they're in the right place. You're going to, or to sort out any problems as they come up, make sure they're not, putting a screw hole through an extra standing there or something, background performer of some sort. Obviously you need people to be, overseeing this kind of stuff. But the beauty of that kind of approach is when you then go to turn around on that shot, you don't have to think about it. You press play, and all of a sudden, all the robots start moving around so that the lighting matches when you flip over looking the other way, or maybe you don't want to move them. Maybe you just want to have the camera, the lighting move, and you shoot the same from the same direction, and you don't have to worry about it. I mean, I just think this is the kind of stuff that is going to happen as these technologies become cheaper. I mean, look, we live in weird times right now. God knows what anything coming from China is going to be expensive by the sound of it. But the point being is that there is already many, many robotic systems in place that could automate a lot of this stuff. And I think we have to realize this. And, if I was in the lighting department or the grip department, or I would absolutely be familiarizing myself with all of these tools and tech, because that's how you get a job. That's how you can figure out new ways of doing stuff. A perfect inspiration for me, and this is I can't believe this is so old now, but I want to show you this. This was this short film called Box, and it was all done with robot system, and also something called projection mapping, where basically they are creating 3D surfaces on flat surfaces, so they can add elements of depth and stuff. These are all robotic arms with these lighting systems attached to them. I guess there's some kind of monitors of some sort, and they just do a wonderful job of being creative, coming up with these gorgeous images and seamlessly tying them together. So look, that's again, that's the projection mapping. You're getting, there's an external force that affects the digital image on the screen. So this just blew my mind. I just could not get over this. I mean, you think, okay, well, yeah, but it's just visual effects. But these are live visual effects. These are happening in real time this could be in a play, this could be in a musical. I mean, this it could be in a obviously stuff like this is being used in stage productions and stuff. But look at what's available to people now. And why wouldn't you use things like that to enhance whatever kind of shows you're working on? To me, it's I see these things as just a way, another way into creativity, another way into, ooh, it'd be a good story. Oh, what you could do with that. I mean, instead of going like, oh my God, that's two people that don't have jobs. The reality is none of that is possible with humans. A human does not have the ability to do this kind of stuff. What the humans do have is the ability to dream up this amazing stuff and then also be present in making this all possible and making it safe and making it repeatable. And this is just, I think this is an absolutely gorgeous, gorgeous example of what happens when smart and, smart tech savvy creators get to play with some of the latest technology. Again, this is how many years old is this now? This is 11 years old, right? Like, why the heck isn't there more of this on film sets? I don't. It boggles my mind that there aren't more of these kind of things happening right now. Were there other things I wanted to talk about here? Rules of Attraction, yeah, fantastic film. Split screen, again. This is a. I remember when this was a thing in 1970s, 1980s movies where the split screen thing was just such a big, a big thing. Whether you like it or not, I mean, I think it can work incredibly well when it's done right, and it can also be pretty cheesy when it's not. But again, with the technologies, being able to pull this kind of stuff off is amazing. This was one that I really, really liked. So this was an example of, this was, what was this? Was this hotel? Is this the hotel film? But again, you shoot this once with a locked off camera, and then you could add each element as you go along. And it's just such a gorgeous shot. I wish I could remember the French Dispatch. There you go. French Dispatch. Right. Exactly. Just you try making that work on its own. It wouldn't be possible. Right. Again, another one of my favorite films there is Spider-Man as well. Anyway, so this is just an example of this. This is actually a fun video, actually, the Split Screen, the ultimate guide to filmmakers, because it just runs through how it's used and some effective ways of doing it. What is it? What was that one called? I remember that one. That's a fantastic film. Something at Once. All of Everything at Once, or something, whatever it is. Everything at Once. Anyways, so just, I think there's some really fun stuff to play with there. I am very curious to see how small we can make this, how compact we can make these robots. Like, are there little tricks? Like, there's a lot of these little sliders and stuff that are available now. Let me see if I can do this. I don't think we need to see that anymore. Oh, no, maybe not. I want to do that. I want to do this. Well, that's not bad. Why can't we see? No. Can I switch it? I can. Ooh, look at that. There you go. So I would love to see how small and compact these things can become. We're seeing there's a bunch of these things, like they're basically like little motorized systems that have a camera on a track, and there's a little band, and it can pull these things along. One of the things I've always been frustrated about is the sound, because a lot of these things make a lot of noise. And I remember working with Guillermo on Shape of Water, and there was a shot he wanted to do. He had this idea that Michael Shannon and myself were going to be talking in this office, and that he was going to have it all from way back here, and this drone was going to slowly come up, and it was going to go through the window. And the first thing I said was like, so we're going to have to record all the audio afterwards. And of course, the sound is a huge issue. And he's like, yes. But and we ended up not doing that. I ended up using a crane system instead, which just made more sense. But now these consumer cameras, these consumer drones, are able to basically filter out the sound of their own engines. So you can get this fantastic audio that is that's already taken out the sound of the thing that's filming them. And I just as soon as I heard that, I was like, oh god, Guillermo would have loved that. Just because you could do that as a lighting engineer. What a coincidence we're talking about this. LOL. Oh, Sakatolis, fascinating. Yeah, the lighting stuff. I'm really really interested in how we can help to automate some of the lighting side of stuff. And because I just think there's some really fun stuff we could be playing with there. I mean, I think right now everyone's all excited about the idea of sticking a camera on the end of a robot arm and having it do all these fun, cool things and music videos and stuff. But then when you start getting into lights as well, lights and cameras and possibly even actors as well. I mean, perfect example of that, I guess, would be Gravity, which I should probably look at again with this in mind. Because I know a lot of that was done with the original those original monitors that like they're being used on the big famous one is sort of the Mandalorian, these massive projection screens behind the actors that make it look like they're on a vast set when really they're just in a little studio. It's getting a little bit overused now, and you can almost it reminds me of the Star Trek stuff now, where you can almost see that's where the fake boulders stop and the screens start behind it. It's one of those things that I think, again, use it as a tool. I think if it's overused, it can be a bit of a disaster. So shall I go to some questions now? Is there anything else I want to talk about robotics wise? Lighting robotics, camera robotics. Oh, right. The other thing about like that bot and dolly thing that I was showing you. Let me go back to that so you can see again. So what's happening here, which I think is fascinating, is this projection mapping thing. The idea of creating the illusion of shapes and depth and movement where there isn't any, just using visual effects. And of course, the computer technology is fast enough and is getting, and we're getting smart enough to figure it out that it can work out. It can work out how to make a lot of these physics things work and stuff. Unreal Engine is a perfect example of that. Unreal Engine has the ability to track the camera at the same time as it's moving the background. So basically, as the camera comes up, the image on the screen will also adjust to make that parallax work and stuff. And I've seen that work on. I've seen that work with tiny little monitors and stuff, where if you get close enough and you got a monitor behind you, you can make it look like you're just about anywhere. Again, it's the creativity. And if you want some inspirations, I would suggest you go back and look at some of the old movies, because there's some extraordinary work where they've managed to have, the same actor interacting with each other, even by using body doubles and very smart areas that they can where they can assemble the image together. It's just I went down the rabbit hole on a lot of the history of this kind of stuff. In fact, let me see if I can do this for you. Let's have a little look see. Make sure I'm looking at the right stuff. Okay, that's the bot. Let me see if I can bring up another one for you here, because there's some really great stuff. Of course, YouTube. It's like where it's my go-to for this stuff. Let's go see my history, because I am sure there was some good stuff. I may have already included it here, actually. Split screen, yeah. See if I could find this. Was it the ultimate guide? It might have been. Let's have a look here. I'll pull it up for you in a sec. There we go. That. There was some really fun. Oh, I've started using YouTube for music now. And of course, so it means I've got my history is just full of all these damn music video things. Okay, let's have a look. Let me see if I missed it. Where was it? Split screens, creating doubles, a split screen and beyond. I think this was the one. Yes, this was the one. Okay, let me get you this, because I think you are going to like this a lot. This is the history. So this is the history in action, like how they've done some of these shots. And like really the real old school stuff. Let's see if I can you know, uh, I love this story. This part of the story was basically they had twins. Like the actors actually had twins, so they used them. But there was some amazing stuff going back. Let's see if I can find it. If I can find it, just going back further. Uh, there's some wonderful stuff here. Maybe not the Van Damme movies, but there's some great, like, look at that. Okay, so that is, see, look at that. So that guy's actually got, they're actually shaking hands. So these are the same actor. A little bit fresh, wait a little longer. Again, same actor. And what they're doing is they're just carefully designing it so that the body double is there with the arm to, with the hand to shake. There you go. See, it's just, I mean, it's so ingenious. And this is technology, right? I mean, this allows you to, I mean, these are visual effects, obviously, but there's, the fact that we can now do that with a moving camera. And I invite people to say, okay, how do we use this stuff? How do we come up with some neat new ways of using these technologies? Again, instead of, fighting them, I'm not saying we shouldn't debate, whether this stuff, how this stuff is used and how to, keep it safe and stuff. I'm all for that. I feel like, for me, I find this stuff inspiring. I think there's some amazing things that can happen with it. So robotics on set. I think I've covered them all. Let's go to the chat and see what's going on. Hello, Katerina from Czech Republic. Oh, fantastic place. Thank you forever. I need to go, but I wish you one day I can meet you and tell you how you've changed my life, my career, and how. And now, as a lighting manager for automakers, you're indirectly changed how lighting works. Oh, fantastic. Oh, my God. Well, thank you very much. That's very kind of you. Thank you forever. And thank you. That means a lot. Cheers. Humans used to shake hands. Silly covetless humans. Yes, exactly. Back in the old black and white days of film, they used to actually shake hands. Early effects were brilliant. So are our modern effects. I feel like, again, I think there's a tendency for people in the film industry, and people in general, I think, to get enamored with the tools, not what they can do with them. I mean, right now we're seeing it a lot with AI, where AI is something that everybody's so excited about. Oh, what can I use this for? And I think they get so wrapped up with the tool itself, they forget that, an AI film is not a film that is spat out by isn't just a series of images spat out by a program. No, a film involves a story. It involves character. It involves a human connection between the film itself and the story itself and the people who are watching it. So I don't fear for the human side of the entertainment world. I think it's going to change a lot. And it's potentially going to be about, it's not going to have the kind of money that it used to have, perhaps. But I still think we're going to be able to tell some freaking amazing stories with this stuff. Even just look at the cameras that are available to us now. We walk around with movie studios in our pocket. I don't understand why there aren't more films rather than less. Okay. Not sure they wasted 270 million USD to nothing, not accounting market distribution. How much do they need to solve the issues with the rights? Very static handshake, but at the time, I bet no one noticed the trick. Oh yeah, no, absolutely, Nixie, you're right. I mean, this is the kind of stuff. Again, I think one of the things I lament is all of the access to behind the scenes stuff. I remember craving it as a wannabe filmmaker and an actor. And, I wanted to know how they did all these amazing shots. I loved all the behind the scenes stuff. I've now cooled on it a bit because I feel like, the spoiler aspect of it is so huge. And also, again, I feel like because of visual effects, people just go like, yeah, and then the world explodes. Fine, let's do that. And then VFX will handle that. And I feel like, the creativity, a perfect example of that for me would be like how that was used well was that film Flow, where they were using an open source Blender program to make an animated film for a fraction of the cost that it would have to make any sort of traditional animated feature. And the other problem with animated traditional animated features is because they're expensive, because they involve so many people and they require all these big names and all this kind of stuff to make the executives feel better about spending the money on them. They're designed to be as broad appeal as possible. And I think as a result, I think you can sort of like bore a lot of people rather than entertain a specific few for what you're doing. And I thought Flow was just, it felt to me like a beautiful cut sequence from a video game, but I loved it because it had a personality, and it was because it was such a small amount of people and a director with a vision that played to all of the potential of this Blender program, and also the limitations as well, right? So it's a great topic, Janelle Craner. It is. I mean, I'm like, this is my geekiness for sure. I think one of the biggest appeals to the film industry for me, or going into the film industry for me, was the technology. I remember calling like my friend Vincenzo on the first sort of big film I'd done, and I was like, "We're shooting at 35 mil." You know what I mean? Like, as an actor, that should be the least of my concerns. But I was so excited that this was the technology we were using, because we'd always dreamt of like filming something in 35 mil. Now of course it's all digital, but and I look, I profess I'm one of the first people to sort of embrace the whole video side of stuff. I did not see the reason why we were still making things on film when video was available. So I love pushing the bounds of this kind of stuff. And I just thought that this is, I've so enjoyed our, the Damn Dirty Abe's chats and the On With Genius chats. And I just wanted to do something that spoke to, how I earn my living. I mean, this is how, this is why I'm able, these technologies in this industry is the reason why I'm able to talk to you today and have the things I have to play with. So what are your thoughts on Unreal Engine 5 for movies and series? Papa Smee, one of my favorite topics. So I have a laptop over here that's running Unreal Engine. I am taking a course on Coursera about Unreal Engine. I am absolutely all in on Unreal Engine and Blender. Although I got to say, I guess I play with Blender more, so I find I like the creation tools in Blender. But when it comes to putting together a film, Unreal Engine for sure. I think right now it's probably best served as a way of doing pre-visualization, and maybe some potential animation stuff. Although if you go and watch Sex, Love, and Robots this last season, there's a couple of shows or shorts in there that were entirely done in Unreal Engine, and it's glorious. I get really excited about that because that's the kid in the basement making a movie. Like I think what's available is amazing. There's if you're playing with that, I'm going to recommend something else to you as well. I think it was called Black Eyes Unreal. Yeah, Black Eyes Unreal. It's I do not want to enable Siri. Thank you very much. Okay. There it is. Black Eyes technology. Let's get you this. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to paste it in here so you can see what's going on. That's the split screen. Don't need that anymore. Let's do this. So this is a plugin for Unreal Engine that allows you to just to track stuff in a way that is, oh my God, it's fantastic. Look at this. So you've got cameras that can track different people. You can adjust how much movement happens. You can always keep them in frame. You can let them sort of drift a little bit. It is, because I'll tell you, trying to control cameras in Unreal Engine, I found really a bit like because you're trying to get the sliders to work, and there's these cranes and all sorts of stuff. This system, this Black Eye Technologies, is unreal. If you want to get into some filmmaking stuff, I highly recommend you get this stuff. I must confess that it was they actually sent me a copy of this to play with because I had sort of professed interest in what they were doing, and I am blown away by it. Like I can't wait to do something with it. My problem is as my wife would say, I'm a completionist. So I feel like I've got to go all the way back to the beginning and learn everything about Unreal before I actually sit down and do anything with these plugins and stuff. But yeah, definitely check out the Unreal Black Eye camera switcher. I think there's a new version even of it, or is this the latest version? Yeah, 3 days ago. So there you go. So he's got the switcher in there as well. It's just, oh my God, it's so good. If you look at the bottom there, where you can see where the shots are where they're switching between shots, it's just, I'm telling you, trying to do this in Unreal is a lot harder. This is as easy as it looks. You basically you check a few parameters as to where it's looking and how it's looking at things, and it's, oh my God, it's fantastic. So really excited about that. One of the other things I wanted to play with Unreal, actually, thank you for bringing it up, Papa Spee, is using robotics. So like you can create a robotic system in Unreal Engine and then program it as if you would program a robotic system in the real world. And so you could previs without all the cost expense of having a robot. You just find the robot you want to use or have access to or could be available to you, and you just you can play with it in a virtual world to see how it's all gonna work together. But really, just Unreal Engine. I'm really excited about Unreal Engine. Maybe that's a topic unto itself as well. So Papa Smee, definitely, and anyone else who's interested, Unreal Engine, it's fantastic. School of Motion's a great place for information. And yeah, there's a bunch of amazing tutorials on YouTube about it. There's another one. It's Unreal Dojo or something like that, where it basically teaches you how to use the world creation stuff. It's just, it's amazing. All right, would you consider doing Base and Stoke Comic Con again? Absolutely, I would. I mean, I know there was some scheduling issues and stuff there, but I absolutely loved it, and I love the people who run it. It's a fabulous convention. I'd go back in a second. I'm just assuming they didn't invite me back because I was there the year before, last year. So I'm assuming they have to take some time off. But I'm always happy to do that. So if anyone knows anybody and wants me to be there, let them know because I'm there. David, did you see the YouTuber made a bunch of AIs to pretend to be victims for phone scammers? It's so funny. Oh my God, Twitch guy too. Yeah, the use of AI on to basically tie up time for these scammers is fantastic. Yeah. I'm like the passenger who keeps missing the bus. No, not at all. That's the beauty of YouTube. Watch it again later. Would you watch a new season of Stargate Atlantis fully generated by AI? I would. I mean, I'd be curious. I don't. Again, I think it's such a tough one because if it can create. I mean, imagine this. It's not even so much. Yeah, if you could type in that you want to see a new version of Stargate, and it can generate that for you, and you can customize that to your own, to however you want. I mean, let's have let's have the actors from Star Trek in and Star Wars included or whatever. I look that stuff. I think we're close to that. I think we're at a point with film and TV where potentially people could get into. Hey, buddy. I think we're at a point with this AI generated stuff where you can go text to video or even images to video. I think we're getting very, very close to entirely customized, personalized films where you can make something. You can bring something into the world with just a text prompt. I think that's, and again, I think there's going to be a lot of absolute crap because of that, but I also think there's going to be some beautiful stuff as well, especially if you get some smart storytellers who know how to create character and know how to engage an audience. I mean, that's only going to help them make stuff. I mean, I keep thinking of sort of Michelangelo. He didn't paint everything. He had his little minions running around doing, the basics, and then he came in and would do the fine tuning of stuff. I mean, there's always been a need to try to automate to make things more efficient, and I think that honestly, a lot of the stuff I see coming out of Hollywood, these big productions, I feel like maybe they are already AI generated. I mean, it feels, I'm not so much the imagery, but the concepts and the scripts and stuff just feel like they're written by like committee to hit all the all the right advertising and demographics and stuff. I mean, they feel almost machine like in how and how basic they are. That's why it's just so refreshing. It's why I enjoy watching horror movies so much, is because there's always, even if it's terrible, it's they're trying different stuff, and it's, you don't have to have these big movie stars in it, so you know who the bad guy is and the good guy is and all the rest of it. So again, I just I think the idea of AI generated stuff, I am absolutely fine with the idea of AI generated stuff. And as I say, I welcome our robot overlords, but at the same time, it's still got to be good. I want to watch, like they keep talking about these AI shorts. I want to watch a short and go, wow, that was fantastic. And then find out that it was AI generated. That's when I will be blown away. Because right now it feels a bit like, oh, it did this. Okay, so that happens in the movie now. And it's just like, that's not the way to write a movie. I mean, well, look, it's a way to experiment. I agree. I think people need to do this. I just think that calling that a short film is not, is not, that's not the way. That's not the way you entertain an audience. I don't think, again, I think people are more enamored with the idea of the AI than they are with what it's putting out. So yes, I would absolutely watch it. I'd be curious to see how good a job it does of it. I mean, I think there's enough footage of me, or any of the Stargate actors for that matter, out there that you could probably train a model that would be pretty good. Although whenever I type in, whenever I try to get it to create me in an image, I it never seems right to me. I mean, maybe I have some weird inflated sense of what I look like, but I mean, even it either looks too good or too bad. This never, it's like I'm like Goldilocks and Three Bear when it comes to to AI. It doesn't get it right. It will. That's the other thing is, I mean, everyone always goes like, oh, it sucks at that. Well, it sucks at that for right now, but an hour later, it could be completely different. So, greetings from Germany. How are you, Stefan? Rodney McKay, Sherlock Holmes Baffled, a silent film from the 1900s, has brilliant effects for the time. Oh, well, okay, Nick, you have to check that out. But that's it. 28 years later, it was shot on a phone. Yes, I've heard about that. He's always doing stuff like that, though. The first one of those films was shot on one of the first Canon video cameras, and everyone was like, "Oh my god, no one's ever going to be able to shoot on that because it looks terrible." Well, they shot an entire feature film on it, and the ability to film incredibly quickly and incredibly, I think it was called the H1 or something, but it was like this Canon, beautiful little Canon camera, and they were able to make a gorgeous film and film in a way that would be impossible with a proper massive film with the usual giant film crew and how slow it is and the permits necessary and everything to make a film like that. I mean, it's sad in a way because I think the impact of that film is probably sort of eroded by what's happened in the world since then, because the reality is we had shutdowns where people are now familiar with the idea of cities that are completely empty with garbage blowing through them and stuff. But at the time, seeing the core of London empty and it was just extraordinary. I remember just it blowing me away. So yeah, it was amazing. So the new one apparently has been shot on an iPhone, and I can't wait. I just can't wait. Is it the same guy who did it? I can't remember. Danny Boyle, I think it was, right? Was it Danny Boyle who made that one? I think it was Danny Boyle who made that one. I don't think he made the second one. I can't wait to see it. It's one of my favorite zombie films too, because it was like one of the first times I'd seen them at speed. I know some people don't like the idea of a fast zombie, but man, oh God, I love that. Nobody wants to edit their own stuff. Eugene, we're going to talk about that. I'm going to do a film and TV about that as well. A future film and TV about that too, because the editing thing is fascinating to me. People hate editing. I love editing. I just never do it because of the amount of time it takes to do it. And I think that's everyone's problem. People want to feed video into an AI and have it spit out these perfect little social media spots that they can dump onto their platform. I don't think we're there yet. Yeah, I played with a with a system called the script, which is really kind of neat, where it gives you a text transcript of the video that you've made, and you can edit it like a almost like a word processor. You can cut and paste the sections of text, and it'll cut it together. I made the mistake of getting it to take out any repeated words or ums and ahs. So basically, my videos became like a minute long because all I do is repeat myself and say ums and ahs, it seems. Um, but as if on cue. The thing is, Eugene, yeah, they don't want to do the work. And again, I'm totally fine with people having more efficient ways of doing it. I will say this. I love the idea that new editing tools allow things like, oh, it's a two shot. It'll tell you it's a two shot. It tells you there's two people in the shot. It can even identify who those people are. Those single shots, it can identify who those people are. That is going to cut down a huge amount of editing time, usually done by, beginner editors who would be responsible for. There's usually an assembly on a film. There's usually like an assembly. I'm guessing it's the same thing for television as well. There's an assembly where you just look at the script, you look at the footage, you cut them together, you just put it all in the right order, so that then the editor can come in with the director and they can figure out how they want it to, how they want to tweak it or how they want to change it or whatever. But the idea that could be done automatically is freaking huge. I mean, the idea that you could just feed it all of the footage of the week and then have it figure out which scene is which and then put it in the right order alone would save you like a ton of time. So yeah, I think nobody does want to edit their own. It's not that they don't want to edit it. It's that they don't want to have to watch it all. They don't want to have to go through. It's such a time consuming process to edit properly. And it takes a certain type of person who are both meticulous and detail oriented, but also able to not get lost in the weeds and be able to edit an entire film. It's a fascinating skill, and it's something that I've got to say I absolutely love doing. I love the editing process. The editing process is like a puzzle, and it's almost like Lego, and you can build it and rebuild it and turn it from it's a truck, it's a plane, it's a boat, it's whatever you want it to be. You can literally rewrite your film or episode of television or whatever, just with the edit. So Buster Keaton, Christian, one of my favorite. I miss special effects the actors had to fear might crush them. Really punched out the performance. Exactly, that's Buster Keaton. Exactly. As if we'll fix it in post wasn't a Stargate thing. We'll fix it in post. They've always said that. I think it's become the biggest issue with VFX, where everything gets pushed to the end, and then they have less time, less money, less resources to fix it, and that's why you continually see these freaking awful shots in big budget shows. Let me see if I can get it to do this. Nope, don't want to do that. I want to do the other camera. Can I do the other one? How do I make it? I see. It's going to be like that, is it? Let's do this. I can't seem to get rid of that one. I can't believe I'm seeing you live. Neither can I, Tony. Just started rewatching Stargate, and I feel 12 again. Regularly quote McKay, loves from Germany. Oh, thanks very much. Thank you. Yeah. I also find myself quoting McKay a lot of finger snapping and using power, that kind of stuff. I avoid behind the scenes stuff. It takes the magic out of it. As soon as I see Superman on wires, I can't get back into it. Yeah, Brian, it's interesting. It depends on the things for me. Once I've watched the film, enjoyed it, lost myself in it, then yes, it's kind of nice to come back and see how maybe some of that magic is done. But there are definitely creators out there. I mean, directors and even studio TV people who don't want to see behind the scenes. I know that the Stargate people didn't like behind the scenes stuff because they felt like there was, the blooper reels and all that kind of stuff. It was just, their concern was that people were going to start doing stuff for the blooper reel, which I think is a little insulting to the actors. But also there's that, there was a 1980s, 1990s kind of attitude that you didn't want to see behind that wall. It's like you don't want to break that fourth wall. You wanted people to be lost in the magic of what they're seeing. And once, as you say, once you've seen Superman on wires, it's like, oh yeah, I see. That's where the underwear would be. That's where the big metal, the little, the metal support system is. That kind of stuff. What do we got? Is the new season coming? The new season. Yeah, any day now. So, what is it? May 15th for what? What's the new? What are we waiting for? What are we excited about? Post. Mr. Special Effects. We've got noises off. Noises off. He's extremely prone to motion sickness. I am. It's true. Hey, Aaron. How are you? Morning from Australia, Adam. Hi, David. Hope you remember me. I met you at DragonCon. Wow. Just a few years ago. Paul made me give you a shoulder massage. Really? Oh, my God. Well, thank you, Kimberly. I guess thank you, Paul, for that. You should see a Nosy game. All right. I should check that out. Again, gaming is another thing that I'm fascinated by. I love this melding of film and gaming with what you can do with this Unreal Engine thing. So definitely got some fun stuff going on that. AI Stargate scripts were hilarious, weren't they, Nixie? And they were early days. Like, it was the first time I'd heard of any of that stuff. And Lawrence is just such a wonderful guy to be doing it with as well. The AI scripts, I mean, can you imagine? Like, they would be completely different now. I think it would be. I hesitate to say this. I think they'd be they could be quite good. I mean, I remember coming up with a few ideas that I fed into the early machine learning models, the early chat GPT stuff. And it came up with some wonderful stuff. Like again, I love the idea that it's like having an assistant that you bounce ideas off. And, you're not going to, most of them are pretty sort of like standard fare that you would have thought of yourself, but every so often they'll make a connection, and I find that absolutely fascinating. We'll have to talk about AI as well. This is what I thought I was going to do, like one or two of these future film and TV things, but I think what I'm seeing now more and more is that there is so much of this to talk about and so many different areas to look into. Another area that I want to talk about was security as well. We've got these like giant freaking movie stars who are worth billions of dollars and who can make or break a movie. Like, a movie doesn't get made without a celebrity name attached to it. And then they go on set and they're all using the same Wi-Fi. It just seems like nuts to me. I feel like we're still kind of naive about the technology with this stuff. So, Jeannie cannot be played by David, has to be Kate. Yeah, so just type be me. That's right. Yeah, Kate's true. Kate was very good. Maybe Kate should just play McKay. I like to generate storylines on the spot for VR. It would be like the holodeck. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely, like, I feel like we're moving into this realm of like customized entertainment, and I mean, like, or even a very not even customized, like personalized entertainment, where we're not necessarily, I mean, I guess you could choose where the story's going. We've tried that before, and it's just not, it doesn't, I don't think people want to figure, unless if you're doing that, you must well play a video game, and the video game can become so immersive that it's not, that it's like a movie. I mean, if you Last of Us, that kind of stuff. I mean, there are these beautiful games that you can play, which are so immersive that to me, they're almost better than films, because they're like films where you can choose where to go, but still not, F up the story. So, I'd like Stargate. What if they had a team? They say, "Well, we got lots of Stargate suggestions here. I want the Showgirls movie starring David." Yeah, that would be interesting. Gimpy G, very interesting. Make me a villain that can best command a data. Exactly. I mean, that's the kind of stuff. So, the one that I punched into an early ChatGPT, I should see if I can find it, was something that people always ask me, like, what I would like to have done on the show that I didn't do, which is it's all very good and well to have two of the Rodneys. I wanted an evil Rodney, right? I wanted like a super villain, evil villain version of McKay. And so I had Chat GPT write up a bunch of scenarios, and it came up with some really fun stuff. I mean, again, you're a part of the process, I mean, I think you could say, I think what comes out is as good as what goes in, to some extent. I think if you can add all the elements to something and it can spit out a lot of stuff to work with, I don't know that it's the best way to work necessarily. I find sometimes that I will have it spit something out, and I spend more time trying to make it work for me than I would have spent if I just sat down and written it. But sometimes I need that to get me to sit down and write it. Sometimes that frustration of like, oh, it's not doing what I want it to do, and being able to dive in and it will actually force me to dive in and do the work myself. So. I'm too perfect to be replicated. Thank you. That's very kind of you, and very wrong. A picture of humans still has too many fingers and eyes. Yeah, I mean, look, it'll get it though. Like it'll get it. I have no doubt that it will perfect all of this stuff eventually. I think the finale of House was shot on a DSLR. Yeah, I mean, look, just checked on the Canon 5D Mark II DSLR. I don't know why my monitor keeps going out, but it does. Was one of the first to use a DSLR. Yeah, it's so that was House. Yeah, but look at how that kind of stuff was being used on Breaking Bad as well. Like they had all these shots that were only possible because of these little cameras they could shove in all sorts of different places, And for things like stunts, I mean, oh my God, we didn't talk about this as a robotics thing. Actually, this is an interesting point that I'd sort of forgotten about. I have to bring this up as well. The use of robotics in stunts, right? Like the idea that you could have a robotic either actor or autonomous vehicle or robotic arm that could constantly recreate the effect you need in a safe and reproducible way. I mean, there's an amazing video which I'll have to find for when we dive into this more, about the Disney robots, like what Disney's doing to create like the Spider-Man robots, and they have this humanoid robot that just spins itself up in the air and lands in a net off camera. But basically, that it's that is something you could not have an actor do that over and over and over and over again throughout the day. They just wouldn't. It's impossible. This allows us to create these illusions in a way that make sense from a money perspective and also from a safety perspective as well. So rewatching Atlantis, and I forgot how much I loved your character. Well, then Christopher, then what the hell? I mean, how could you possibly forget that? I've never done any editing, but I did used to create music as a hobby. Well, Christian, it's the same kind of thing in a way. If you're creating music, I mean, certainly in any kind of these like garage band type thing, it's the same kind of thing. You just have tracks. You have different tracks of sound and video, and it's just about assembling them, the way you want to. The tools there are fantastic right now, and eventually, I think we'll probably get to a point where we're looking at our computer, and we'll say, move the third clip in front of the first one, and blend the two together. Make that clip 30 seconds. 30 seconds longer, or there's just so many of these things that are going to be done, I think, just voice to edit type thing. So wouldn't that be a little problem for the editors itself? I mean, job wise, if AI takes the progress, we don't need them anymore, right? Absolutely, tells Mac Knife. I think that's, and again, I think if you listen to any of these tech bros telling you that it's not going to replace jobs, it's absolutely going to take jobs away. So I think what we have to do is realize that's going to happen. How can you position yourself? You need to do like an AI audit. I'm going to expand that now to like a future audit of, what are your skills? What are your interests? Where do you want to go? What do you want to do in the film and TV world? And then you need to start saying, okay, how do I make myself invaluable with this technology? How do I become the best AI editor, assistant, or whatever it is? Or how do I use this AI now to make myself more productive, to make myself able to now edit 50 films instead of just 5 films a year? How do you make yourself useful? And also, if you see the writing on the wall and it looks like that's just, look, I'm doing that with acting. I'm literally seeing a future where you don't need me. They'll create their own actors. And in fact, in some cases, I think it makes more sense, because I feel like when you look at these massive budget films, they're relying on these humans to behave themselves. We're actors, for God's sake. It's like herding cats. We are not the most stable people on the planet. The idea that you've got like $500 million wrapped up in a movie, and I or someone I know could go and do something stupid after work one day, and then your entire movie's got to be redone. No, I would absolutely. If you're dealing with superheroes and it's like a giant glorified cartoon, anyways, then just use AI or generated metahuman characters. I think you can create perfect movie stars. Like what? Why are we looking for them when you can just create them? So I'm all up for that. I do think though, there's a limit to how much people want of that. The reality is that we don't have, in many cases, we don't have to go and see people live. We could stay at home, and God knows I do that a lot. I'm an extrovert hermit. But at the same time, we're humans. We want to make a connection with characters and with other people. We want to work together. I think there will always be humans involved in this process. I think there's some stuff can be automated, and a lot of that is the sausage factory stuff that I think a lot of people don't think of as film and TV, anyways. I mean, the reality is that it's not all art and stuff we love. They aren't all Stargate characters like McKay that I get to have so much fun with. Some of them are just jobs. Although I got to say, most of my jobs are pretty fun. So, and again, I feel like there's also a human connection there that yes, even if the AI can recreate, or the metahuman can recreate everything I do, I just think that we're going to crave that connection, that human connection. We're gonna I whether we can tell or not if someone's human, I think part of it's going to be like, no, I watched a movie that they were in, and and maybe there's some technology that helps fix the odd thing now and again, or maybe look younger or older or whatever. But I still think that that's why there are humans involved in this stuff. Is that there's a connection there that's required. And film and TV, like it's about going, it's about going to the theater and seeing something and talking about it afterwards, and having stories about the people, and learning about how they came to these characters and stuff. I just think there's a lot more there than just the ability to recreate um, you know humans using effects. I had to edit a theater production shot on video. Wizard of Oz. Wife got tired of hearing one of the songs over and over for hours on end. Oh my god! I mean, that is part of it, right? But again, Lock Watcher. I feel like there are tools. I mean, well, perfect example. I mean, it used to be you had to cut that with film. Like when I started, there were giant editing suites for video stuff, and no one wanted to work on video. They wanted to work on film, so they were cutting and pasting these strips of film together. I that took it out of the realm of possibility for so many people. The fact is that now everyone has some kind of editing software on their freaking phone at this point. So I it's what do you do? Do you cry about the fact that, oh my god, everyone thinks they're an editor now, or you just get really good at it? You know what I mean? Like, so yeah, I just think that technology is constantly going to be pushing us into different realms, to different areas of arts and science. There's no reason for there to be plays anymore. We got films, we got TV. Why do people need to go and see the theater? Because they want to, because they crave that live spectacle. And I think there will be even more value to that going forward, because I think it will be so rare and so expensive to do, so good night. It's late in Sweden. JS, you sleep while you can. I would never deny anyone sleep, because God knows I love it. The movie Event Horizon was ruined by the studio only giving them like 4 weeks to do the edit. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I freaking love that movie, by the way. Hey, I can do this. Can I do this? I can do this. Woohoo! Yeah. Yeah, I forgot I could do this. I guess I could have been calling out these things before. I loved Event Horizon. I wonder if anyone if they'd ever do like a re-edited version. Like now that they've had many, many years, I wonder if the editor actually sat down and went, "This is how I did it." One of my favorite movies too, I'd have to say. Evening all from the UK. Ucash, good to you too. A good evening to you. Love, Death and Robots, May 15th. Oh, that's when the new one comes out. Ooh. Really? Already? I feel like the last one just came out. I got to say, I absolutely love that series. There's stuff there. I mean, you talk about the future of film and TV. Look at those shorts. the stuff that they're doing is spectacular. From Ohio, how are you, Corey? I was in Canada a couple weeks ago. You're in Canada, right? I am, Corey. I'm in Toronto. Although I'm also American, so right now I'm sort of torn between, this, we used to be the best of friends, and now there's this whole conflict thing going on. So, anyways, welcome from Ohio. I'm glad you could be with us. What do we got? Should we talk about the dark side of AI? I read somewhere we will, and I think that's something we can go into for sure. I just I am such a squirrel, a bag of squirrels, actually, that it's I have a hard enough time trying to stay on topic. I think we should do a chat about AI for sure, and I feel like maybe I run counter to a lot of the writers and actors and such that I know, because I think there is a real fear of this in the industry. I mean, a lot of the strike stuff was about the potential problems with AI and stuff. There's always going to be a dark side. I am a techno optimist. I think to a fault, probably. I think I'm a what does they call an accelerationist. I want us to progress. I want us to have new technologies. I love that stuff. I always have the best of. I always feel like it's the best of futures. At the same time, I also realize we do have to look and see how this stuff's going to work. But I don't think trying to hold back this stuff is going to make a difference, because this is not like nuclear weapons. This is, admittedly, it has this many problems. If we start using ChatGPT to run our nuclear program, I think we've got some issues. But I think that this is about. It's always going to come down to the humans. It's always going to come down to the humans running the stuff. The humans are the ones who are making the mistakes. I worry a little bit now that we're moving into this. They call it sort of the agentification, I guess, or whatever the term is, of these new AI models that are able to actually operate in the world, because I worry about the financial side of that. The idea of a financial bot that you say, make me as much money as possible. If you write an algorithm, if you basically program a machine learning model to make you as much money as possible, and you don't put in stops and balances and safety elements, then when it comes to an AI, you go, well, what would be great for the price of corn would be to to nuke that country that makes a lot of corn. I think we got to be obviously careful of that kind of stuff. I mean, I think that's a ridiculous example, but the idea that if it starts, if we, there's a perfect example of these bots that go haywire. The perfect example for me, if you want to look back into it from a historical perspective, is look at the Morris worm, and that was the first, digital worm, like virus type system. It was literally a worm that would jump from one computer to another and continue its way through the internet, and it brought the internet down to a crawl before it was figured out what was wrong, and they could pull it. But that was basically a university student goofing around trying to figure out how this thing worked, and could you do this. And again, thinking forward, you'd go, oh, maybe I should have been a little more careful about how I made that work. My fear is that some kind of a financial bot could be just as destructive that way. So yeah, look, I'm very much aware that there is a dark side, and I think we should definitely talk about AI, but I think that might be better to have a separate topic on that. What does it say? I read someone that said AI can never think for itself. They said every instance of an advanced creature has stomped all over advanced creatures, so we're doomed. Well, we may be doomed, but whether it's going to be the AI or not, I don't know. Same here. It would be a different movie. Unfortunately, all the extra footage was destroyed, so we are never going to get really. Oh, that sucks. We're going back to Event Horizon. I did not know that. Why get rid of stuff? I don't know why they threw stuff out. God, maybe they'll find, like, in someone's dusty basement, they'll find like a bunch of cans of film, and it'll actually be the lost footage from Event Horizon. I got to say, I love that film. Right. Please continue the film info. I grew up in print and don't know much about video. Well, there's some great stuff out there, Laura Leatherwood. Just yes, absolutely. You know what I'll do is I'm going to do some show notes, and I'll start putting together a little database of cool videos and papers and stuff that I found that were useful to me, or that I thought were insightful into this stuff. So I'll get to work on that too. Mad Wolf, how are you? YouTube, search Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty concert. Okay, I'll do that. My God, the story is epic. Yes, I've heard my son's a big fan of that as well, so I should probably get into that. I've got to say, I loved the Cyberpunk series. Was that the series? Was Cyberpunk 2077 the series, or was it the game we're talking about now? There's the series is fantastic. I absolutely loved it. Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 has been the most immersive game I've played lately. The amount of detail and freedom you have is unreal. Really? Okay. All right. So Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. Wow. Okay. Oh man, evil characters are so much fun. It's true. Hold on a second. I thought the regular Rodney was the evil Rodney. Thank you, Twitch. Twitch guy too. I really enjoy Invincible as well. Invincible as well. Yeah. Invincible, we had an interesting discussion about that, my wife and I, this morning, because we were saying that she was saying that she doesn't particularly love the aesthetic of the show. And I gotta say, it wouldn't be my choice either. I much prefer what they've done with the League of Legends series and some of the other stuff. But that said, I love the story. There's just the writing is fantastic. I think the voice performances are for the most part really good too. I just yeah, it's not. I think it's not always the most conducive look for what it's trying to do, but at the same time, I was saying that the advantage of it being able to be produced in a kind of a slightly less fancy, complicated way, it allows the writers and the directors to do something that would be impossible on any other. If it was a larger scale show, I don't think you would have such a singular vision on this kind of stuff. One of the things that I think people don't realize about film and TV is that as soon as it's not your money, it's not your choice. Or it's very, unless you're a specific type of sociopath or a brilliant director that people just let you do what you want, you have to fight for freaking everything. And the only way to really win that fight is if you're the money. Like if people are scared that by you not being involved, they're going to lose money, or that you've put money in, so you've got a say at the table. The reality is that unless you can fund and finance your own movies, you are going to be beholden to other people, and you're going to have to make choices based on that as well. So, yeah, it's one of those things that I think, like I say, one of the reasons why I think Invincible works so well is because it obviously doesn't. I don't think it costs a huge amount of money to produce those shows, and as a result, the creators are free to sort of try different things, and because it's just not. I'm assuming there's just not as much at stake, and they're willing to let them work as they're a little more independent on that stuff. If there was a huge, massive series like the one done for League of Legends, there's no way they're going to let someone just like run with an IP like that, with a brand like that. They got to be breathing down their throats the entire time on that kind of stuff. So prompting is very important. It's true. What else we got? Black Diamond is crying. I'm not sure why, but because they're missing Stargate, maybe. Yeah, that's true. I cry sometimes too. David Hemblin is Lord Dredd on Captain Power. Yes. Yeah, David Hemblin. That's right. I remember that. Captain Power was the interactive series where you could take a gun and fire it at the screen, and somehow it interacted and allowed you to interact with it. It was back in the 80s, I think, or 90s. Dav Rodney, yes. Lord of the Rings: Return of the King finished being edited a few days before the premiere. Wow. Yeah, there you go. McKay, Wraith Worshipper, made from a Michael clone. Yeah, See, did get that and put that in your text to video and see if you can come up with some fun stuff with that. Okay, so oh my God, I got so far behind on the chat. I'm so sorry. Boy, you guys talk a lot. You're as bad as I am. You should have been with Ronan on Minecraft. Oh yeah, that would have been fun, wouldn't it? Jason looks like he's having so much fun on that. Arcane, that's the one. So Arcane is the series based on League of Legends, and it's absolutely brilliant. Absolutely loved it. I didn't love the second season as much as the first, but the first season was just absolutely brilliant. Yes. Keanu did a documentary about Keanu Reeves did a documentary about 10 years ago called Side by Side that looked at the history of film and its transition to digital. It's really good. Yes. A fantastic film. Absolutely fantastic. I loved it. What's funny about it for me was that was when there was debate. Now there's no debate. It's video. The way to go is video, unless you're like Christopher Nolan and you can, people will throw money at you. I think, frankly, I think it's I think that's pretentious. I just don't. I'm sorry. I feel like shoot it on film and don't pretend you're not using visual effects, because the reality is that, I just think there's a weird backlash against visual effects. What is a visual effect? Running film through a camera and creating a movie is a visual effect. I just don't know why there's this sort of weird backlash about, oh, it was all done in camera. It's sure, whatever. I don't buy it, and also, what's the point? I don't care how you make it if it works. If it doesn't work, I care how you made it, for sure. And one of my issues with working with film is there's so many limitations to it. They had to invent a freaking giant IMAX version of film to make that film. And one of the problems that you have with film running through a camera is that it moves. So there's the close-up shots are out of focus. There are issues with film. There are inefficiencies with film, and also they're not, not that I'm aware of. I don't think they were actually showing the maybe somewhere they were, but not where I was. They weren't showing the film on film. They were showing it through a digital projection, which means it's being digitized at some point anyway. So I don't know. It just seems a little pretentious to me. I don't know. It's just I'm not invested in League of Legends. Yeah, it depends. It depends. New Predator animated series. I have not seen that. I did see a trailer for Adrian Brody. Adrian Brody. Yes, yes, yes. I did see a trailer for Murderbot, which looks amazing. I have no idea what the show's about, but there's some fun looking effects on that. Apple's doing some. I refer to Apple as like the eccentric old uncle who just makes the shows that they want to make. So creates a beacon. Ronan gets buffed. Here we go. I just want to say that as a newer member here, your kindness and graciousness about encouraging people in your fan base to be creative with your character is really incredible. Oh, thank you, Phoenix. It's very nice of you. The funny thing is that my way into this industry was through science fiction. So I started by watching Doctor Who. I wanted to be Doctor Who. When I found out I could pretend to be Doctor Who, that was a lot easier than being a brilliant Gallifreyan. I could now pretend to be that. That was just like, it was magic to me. And then the next magic for me was, getting into theater. And then because of my limited theater stuff, I was then approached by friends when I was 13, 14 years old to do films. And that's the path that diverged in the Yellow Wood, and it's made all the difference. Those are still my friends. We still make films. I mean, Vincenzo's off doing Marvel stuff now. I mean, I love it. I love it not even as an actor. I love it as a medium. I love it. I love television. I love film. I love watching it. I love being in it. I love making it. I've always been absolutely fascinated by that. The acting is almost the least of my interests with it when it comes to it. I'm lucky in that I think I'm reasonably good at it, and I get paid to do it. Which is kind of a dream unto itself. But I've always loved the process of making films. And if I remember even when I was a kid, as a kid making films at 14, I remember like talking with my friends and saying like, God, we got to tell other kids to do this. Like, it's so cool. When I'm famous, I'm going to tell kids that they should go and do this kind of stuff. And the reality is, like I say, we've got movie studios in our pocket. So go make something. I cannot recommend it enough. It's just, I think we spend so much time worrying about whether we should do things. I mean, this is a perfect example. I mean, my streams are a disaster. They're always a disaster. Technically, they're a disaster, but to me, I want to try it. I want to get out there. I want to talk about this stuff, and I'm very happy that it means something to you, because it means a lot to me as well. So. Can you imagine what the future will bring? Maybe you can give it a book to read, and it will create a unique movie in minutes. Yeah, that's exactly it. David, why isn't your printer running? Aha, Martin. Interesting you should say that. I'd actually just been printing some Gridfinity stuff. So I've actually been 3D printing some stuff to do some organization, because I've stolen my wife's office. I have evicted my wife from her office, and I have taken it over. With her blessing, I might say. I feel a little guilty about it, I got to say, but yeah. So I've been printing this Grid Infinity, and I was going to start the other section, because the section that adds to this one is slightly shorter than this. So yeah. So I just hadn't got around to setting it up, but that's why I'm not printing right now. Thank you for noticing. Martin. What do we got? Schwelmer. You can write a story and it will create a movie. Yeah, I think that's where we're going. Oh, you missed the Restream bot. It was driving Agne crazy. Well, I can set it back up again. Uh, what was it that you liked about it, Christian? Was it the so this is the one that was so I had a bot that was basically taking all of the chats from everywhere and posting them everywhere. So Twitch would get the YouTube and the Facebook and everyone else's chat, and I think on Discord as well. Maybe Discord's the way to go with it. Was that the Fabulous Cal who's sharing that? Fabulous Cal's it's got to be getting late for Fabulous Cal, by the way, and for me too. My stomach growling, which means I should probably go eat something. Okay, film compositing is madness. Well, again, look at the tools that are available for that now. The idea that it's not perfect, but it gets you. You can get yourself 80% of the way, 80, maybe even 100% in some cases, but certainly 80% of the way there with the click of a button now. I mean, you can lose a background and isolate it. Something in a video image now in a way that's almost as easy as Photoshop. I mean, God, one of the most amazing new features in Photoshop, which I just use all the time now, is this. You import, you bring in an image, and then you click remove background, and it usually does, and usually it's fine. There's a few things that it can get confused on, but like that's now available in video as well, because video is just a series of still images stuck together basically. But the fact that it can do that is just, God, think about the time saved on that and how many jobs were taken. I mean, that's the other thing, right? I mean, it used to be, they used to do, back when they were shooting, what was it? Princess Warrior, Xena. They used to recruit fans to do the rotoscoping, to take the cables out of shots. So they'd send them a few clips of a shot, so they could paint out the cables that have been used for them to do the jumps or the fights or whatever. And now you can just click track and it'll track and remove those cables. Like the software and AI that will allow you to do that. Again, you still have to check it, and you still need a human there to click it. But the amount of people involved in making that now is just being reduced considerably. So my God, to see you as Doctor Who. I know, it'd be so much fun, wouldn't it? God, that's what I wanted to do. All right, Doctor Who was my introduction to sci-fi. I remember watching it on TVO. That's Christian, same as me. Absolutely same as me. Get this. You want to hear a flex? Here's a flex for you. I just emailed Dr. Dater. And Dr. Dater was the scientist who spoke before, actually after the show, about the possible science and possible things to look out for. All right, I better get out of here. Speaking of, will you be watching the new season tomorrow? Voice of Many. I haven't got into the new show. I've got to say, I watched a bit of Christopher Eccleston. I really liked what David Tennant was doing, and I think my favorite, honestly, so far was probably Matt Smith. I loved what Matt Smith was doing because he had that same kind of Tom Baker edge to him. That, by the way, if anyone's wondering about the special effects there, that's actually my stomach making that noise. That is the hunger. It's the hunger messages from my stomach there. Okay, Restream bot. Yes, all messages. Yes. It's not working on Twitch at the moment. Yeah, Cal, I think I turned it off. I think there was a concern about it being overwhelming for people, but I can certainly do that. Have you seen my new Goa'uld model? Martin. I have not. I shall have to check them out. In fact, let me just go and. Where would I find them, Martin? Are they on printables? Is that, or where are they? Where are they based? Where do I find them? I want that back for our Tuesday. Okay, yeah, all right, Gippy G, sure, I'm on it. Fine, yeah, I'll get on it. Yeah, Tuesday. So next week we'll be back with I'm with Damn Dirty Abe's, or Damn Dirty Stargate Abe's as we call it. So Gimpy G and I'll be chatting about the state of the world again there. It's really fun, I got to say. So Flash was my intro to sci-fi. Really? The Flash? All right, can look into your brain, feeling the sensors, create music that you. Yeah, I mean, Schwelmer. That's something I've been sort of like proselytizing about forever is putting things on our ears to simulate sound, putting things on our eyes to make it look like putting goggles and things on our faces to try to make us feel like we're somewhere else. It just seems to me that the best way to do that is just to hack the big computer in the brain. That just seems to be the best way to do a truly immersive experience. But I will say this though, it's hard to beat the wonderful immersive experience of sitting in a dark theater with a bunch of fellow humans watching a movie. It's just, it's admittedly, sometimes I eat my popcorn a little loudly, and sometimes other people turn their cell phones on. It drives me crazy. But yeah. All right, I'm out of here. Doctor Who was my VHS sci-fi entry. Yeah, Flash. You mean like Flash as in Flash Gordon, that original one? Tomas, how are you? Another fabulous Czech citizen. I gotta say, that is a wonderful, wonderful part of the world. And if you get a chance to go, I highly recommend it, especially if it involves any conferences. I want to go to, was it Unreal? I think Unreal Engine had Prague as one of their, oh my God, I miss out on all this stuff. I've really got to spend more time reading the internet. That's what I got to do. Oh, the original Flash Gordon. Oh my God. Yeah, the black and white one. That was some fun special effects in that one. $6 Million Man was my first science fiction. Really? Yeah. $6 Million Man was, I think there was like $6 Million Man. There was also Battlestar, but for me, it was Doctor Who and a show called The Tomorrow People, which they tried to remake and I never watched because I didn't want to. But the original Tomorrow People, which I also tried to watch the original version of it, it's also unwatchable. But I used to love that. So you need to come back to visit Prague any freaking day. Same old Shane. How the hell are you? Any day. Any day. Swear to God, one of the highlights of my life was spending way too long at the Prusa factory with the fabulous Prusa nerds. Because man, what a wonderful, wonderful place! What a wonderful city! I think it possibly might be my favorite city in the world now. I just absolutely freaking loved it. So is there a Discord for this? There is a Discord for this. It's funny you should ask. I think someone even posted it. Illegal Function. Hi, Mr. McKay. Loved you in Battlestar Galactica. I wish I was in Battlestar Galactica. I love that show. I loved that show. The remake, I was so all over that. Let me see if I can find the Tech Bandits Discord right here. Can I copy that? Oh, look, I could do this. There you go. I could show it. Join the Tech Bandits Discord here. Okay. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to scroll back down again. So I don't know if you can I guess you can't cut and paste that, can you? Damn it. But that's the Discord right there. My true sci-fi world was Star Trek and Star Wars. I watched a lot of the original Star Trek as well. It's true. Have you watched the old German Raumpatrouille Orion? You should watch it. I bet there is an English version in the internet. Really? Okay, so check it out. I will check that out. Now that I've mangled it. Oh my God. The Prague Comic Con was fantastic. SGA was the great science fiction series. I'm so glad you liked it. But a quadriplegic kid loved the idea of of course it is. Yes. Gimpy G as a quadriplegic kid would have loved the Bionic Man. We'll talk about that on we should talk about that on Tuesday. All right, I'm out of here. Look, thank you all for joining me. Thank you so much for the chat. It's wonderful. It keeps me slightly focused, or just opens up even more bags of squirrels. But like I say, I personally welcome our robot overlords. I invite you all to look into the technologies that are out there. I'm going to try to make a list of some of this stuff so we can have more to discuss going forward. I don't think this is the last time we're going to be talking about robotics on set. I really don't. So yeah. Until we geek again, I will say be brave, be kind, be brilliant, and cheerio, and huzzah! Thanks, everyone. Have a great weekend. Cheers. Wow.